గొప్పండా నల్ల ముద్దు తేవండా మల్లు కట్ట బందవన పల్లు కట్ట వెప్పండా పాట నాండా గొప్పండా నల్ల ముద్దు తేవండా మల్లు కట్ట బందవన పల్లు కట్ట.
My father and I had a secret. He kept a bottle hidden in the inner recesses of his cupboard in our house on Lincoln Road in Santa Cruz. When the two of us were alone, we took out the bottle, examined its contents, we added to it, decided what needed to be thrown away, and discussed it in great detail. We would sometimes sit for hours and make plans. We always referred to it as our bottle. My father never got angry or ever expressed his emotions publicly, but the bottle allowed him to let off what was built up inside. Seeing him share his thoughts, his hopes, fears by dropping them into the bottle made me feel safe and understood and loved. It created a secret space with my dad that was just about the most important thing in my entire childhood. Whenever we put anything into the bottle, we described it with all its colors and smells, textures, and the pageantry it possessed. When my grandmother died, we sat on the bed and took out the bottle, me with sobs just below the surface, and him with the calmness and confidence of God. We put into the bottle the white, soft, warm lap that she possessed. White because she always wore white saris, soft because she was slightly plump, and warm because that is how I felt when I thought about how much she loved the both of us. When we got a dog, we filled the bottle with the yellow, bright joy we felt when we first saw him, capturing the puppy inside forever. When my mother scolded me for not doing my chores, I put the hard, hot anger I felt into the bottle. There was room for every emotion, the full range that a man feels along with their names, and the full range that a child feels without knowing their names. Into the bottle found its way every thought, every nourishment, every achievement, and even every failure. But they remained there only until and as long as they were relevant. Once my anger had worn away, I promptly took it out of the bottle and realized it was not as important coming out as it was going in. Sometimes we even planned things to do specially so we could have more things to put into the bottle. Like the time we took the double-decker bus and traveled all the way to Churchgate, sitting on the front seat on the top deck and feeling the wind rush through our hair and sting our faces. That's how we discovered that the experience of flying was pure indigo and felt like velvet. My father believed that life was in the in-between moments, in the pauses between the voices, in the spaces between the notes, and so making special moments and saving them in the bottle allowed us to appreciate life and to celebrate every day. One time, I remember, he woke me up at 4 a.m., asking me if I remembered which day it was. I looked at him in the dark of the morning and I said, July 15th, and asked him what was special about that day. He said, July 15th, 1972 was never ever going to come again. And so I woke up, my mom packed a picnic basket, and we set up for a long drive to Kapoli for a breakfast picnic at the waterfalls to celebrate an ordinary day worth living to the fullest. There are some things that we put into the bottle that we never took out, like the aquamarine refreshing sound of love, the unconditional love that we felt for each other, the first touch of my sister when she was born. She smells so sweet and soft like candy floss. The star I got for my essay in class where my favorite teacher read it out in front of everyone and patted me on my shoulder, that was in the bottle too. That memory felt like multicolored bubbles blowing out of an open window perfect, clean, and headed somewhere. The bottle was almost always full, but there was always place for more. When my father had his first heart attack, I was just 14 years old, and we both put the brown dust of fear into the bottle. As his health deteriorated, we added the darker shades of purple and grey, ash and powdered stones, filling the bottle almost to the top. I used to visit him on Thursdays and bring his favorite cake, the pineapple upside-down cake that I baked myself. One day, as we sat together in the hospital, he asked me to bring the bottle. I sat in front of him, and he took it in his hand and turned it upside down and emptied out all the gravelly stuff that the bottle held, leaving behind only the glowing, shining and glittering gems. He said that the negative stuff was no longer relevant to him and that it should not be to me either. A week later, he died. All thoughts filled my head. I could not believe that this could be true. I was inconsolable, like the world would never be the same again, which it wouldn't. A part of me was gone, and my bottle was used up, dry and a piece of glass. Where was my dad to bring it to life? Where was life to bring me my dad? Relatives and friends surrounded us, trying to help, but I was inconsolable. A few days later, my aunt offered to clear out his cupboard. And that's when she found it. An empty bottle? She cried. What's an empty bottle doing in the cupboard? Before anyone could answer or react, I pulled the bottle out of the hand. It's not empty. It's not empty, I said. And as everyone watched in stunned silence, I ran out of the room like Aladdin with the bottle clutched to my chest, my heart pounding and tears rolling down my cheeks. Many years later, I watched my son blowing out the candles on his cake when he turned 5. He's a lovely boy, thoughtful and sensitive, full of emotions, but not sure where to point them, how to feel them, or how to let them go. I took out the bottle from inside my cupboard, where I had hidden it for so long, away from prying eyes. I took it out and held it against the light. I saw my father watching me as I stood there, and I smiled at the impossibility of time and space and death, and how so much love could fit into such a small container. I held it out to my son as he turned around, and he smiled as he inspected it. It was now our bottle. Thank you.